Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. It's that time of week again, everybody's favorite segment, the Power Rankings. Guys, we're doing NFL Power Rankings heading into week number 8. 6 buys last week, so we're going to have a couple teams on here that didn't play a game. Sure, they might have moved a spot or two, but if you don't play, you probably didn't move too much. We have 0 buys this week, so that's going to be pretty exciting. Not a whole lot of movement overall on this board, but I think going into next week, there's a lot of matchups that are pretty impactful on the power rankings, so that's super exciting. And we're going to start to get a real sense of who some of these teams are. The bottom teams are, some of them have been Jekyll and Hyde, and the bottom 2 rows, of course, all throughout the really top 4 rows, it's been like that. Guys, if you're new to the channel and you haven't followed us before, please subscribe. We do one of these videos every week. Baseball season just coming to an end. We're wrapping that up with the World Series coming up to a start end as well, and hockey season going. So we're trying to do content all season long, but the goal by the end of the NFL season of 1,000 subs. So if you guys can help do that, smash that subscribe button. You'll be doing a great service to me. Number 32, one of the teams off the bye. We have the Carolina Panthers team. Didn't have a game. Still looking for its first win. They were last week, so I can't really move them up. So I'm not going to talk too much about them, and we're just going to move on. Number 31, dropping a couple of spots. Arizona, they lost to Seattle there, 20-10. The offense without James Conner is a little bit questionable if they're going to get anything going. Now we have Zach Ertz, who's going to be out at least for a little while. I didn't see the injury, but I know he's on the IR now. And they're playing Baltimore this next week coming up. So very unlikely that they're going to find a win. It's very, coming into the season, that everyone thought they'd probably be the worst team. Dobbs has had a pretty good performance up until now, but without the running game of James Conner, really took a hit to Dobbs. And when Kyler Murray comes back, what's going to happen there? It's going to be interesting what they decide to do. Are they going to tank for the number 1 pick? We will see. Number 30, dropping a few spots. I just was not happy with what I saw. Losing to Denver this past week, 19-17. They shouldn't have even beat New Orleans a couple of weeks ago when they did win. This team not having trouble getting any offense going. Their defense has been somewhat strong, keeping teams for the most part 20 points or less, keeping them in games. But I don't see a path for the Packers to beat most teams in the NFL. I do not think it's obviously a building year for them. Jordan Love, is he going to be the future of the team? It's hard to say right now. Dobbs, whatever, wide receiver, what's he going to do? But right now the Packers, I think, are clearly the worst in this NFC North, which is saying a lot because there was a lot of struggling teams. But they do have an interesting game against Minnesota, division game, rivals. They're without Jefferson, but they're coming off a big win, so they'll keep an eye on that one. Next up, New York Giants, 14-7 over the Washington Commanders. I wasn't ready to put a lot of weight into that, but you got to be a little bit excited since Tyrod Taylor took over behind the center of the Giants. They've at least been in both games very closely, almost upset the Bills last week. Only 14 points and a big win this week. But overall, they've gotten a couple of touchdowns with Tyrod Taylor, but the defense is really what has been putting them in this position to win. We do know last year they had a strong defense as well. Maybe they should be a little bit higher. But I'm not sold because this team's offense has been atrocious. They just have not scored touchdowns in the first half at all, really, until this past week. And now they're in a position where maybe they can go on a couple of wins in a row, and then I can move them a little bit further up the board. They're going to be playing a team in the New York Jets that should be a very competitive game, and I think they're even favorites in that spot. Number 28, not ready to move them up too much, but they had a massive win, 30-12, with starting quarterback coming in there, his first start of his career, just looked really good. And they undrafted, capable, put up 30, but it's against the Raiders, and the Raiders have their own issues going on. So I wasn't going to put too much. Any given week, an NFL team can win, right? What I want to see from the Chicago Bears is how they're going to compete going forward. They're playing the Chargers this upcoming week. Fields clearly not going to be the starter. And we're going to see if they're able to stem a little bit together here. I'm drawing a blank on the quarterback's name. I know it starts with a B. I'm sorry, guys, but that's just how much of an impact he's had so far. But there's excitement, and there's possibly quarterback controversy in Chicago. Number 27, we got the Denver Broncos. They have a win. They picked up a win. Russell Wilson, he's doing all right. And their defense held the team to below 20 points. So there's some things to work on in Denver. They picked up a W, but the 2 wins they have this season against the Jets and against the Bears, I'm not super stoked about. They're going to go into Kansas City next week. It's a division rival they just played a couple weeks ago. They got killed. They'll probably get killed again, and it's just they're going to be the same story. They're in a division here where they don't have a shot of going on, so they got to figure out what they're going to do long term. Going number 26, we got the New England Patriots. Just probably the biggest upset of the entire week. The Bills threw it away to them, basically. They did take the lead late in the game, and then the Patriots stormed down and managed to get it back. So I know it caught everyone by surprise, this one. Whether it's an issue of the Bills being very struggly this season so far, they've not looked like the Bills that we're used to, especially on offense. The first play of the game, we saw Josh Allen throw a pick in that one. But the Patriots kind of took the lead. They chipped away. They blew the lead in the fourth, and then Mac Jones did drive down for a game-winning drive, which he does not do very often. So they're going to have their work cut out for them this next week against Miami. We'll see what was for real. They've already met them once. They only lost 20-17 in that case. But the Patriots are going to look to make some moves. Number 25, we got the New York Jets. They're coming off a bye. They're going into the Giants. I do think the Jets overall as a team are better than the Patriots. I know they lost the Patriots, but that was all with Zach Wilson still getting his feet under him. I hope with this bye week, we're going to see Zach Wilson, a Jets team, that's going to be competitive. They're setting up their team to be a potential 8-9 team. But it's not going to be good enough probably to make the playoffs. But are they better than 25th spot? It's very possible. It's a week like this against the lowly Giants where I'm going to really help make a decision whether they should start to go up or not. Next up, 24, dropping the most spots, I think, on the board. We have Vegas just getting blown out by the Bears. A lot of that, clearly, they're having a lot of issues on offense. They now have Brian Hoyer behind center, and was not good. It did not work out very well for them at all. They put up 12 points. Adams coming out, obviously, saying, give him the ball. They tried. They really did, but it did not work for them this week. They're going to have a tough week. They're playing Detroit, a team that has aspirations of winning the division, whereas right now the Raiders are just trying to plug the holes of a sinking ship. Don't know what's going on in Vegas for football. But it might be time, if you're a Vegas fan, to really tune into some hockey instead. Number 23, we got the Titans, had a bye week. They're going to come off out of this bye week with an important game against Atlanta, a team that I think they match up fairly well with. But the big story here is Tannehill not going to be starting. It's going to be Will Lewis or Malik. They're going to be alternating, but it looks like Will Lewis, rookie quarterback, going to get the start at least in that situation. What's going to happen there? It's always concerning, but against a team like Atlanta, who also has some young guys in the offensive, could turn into a very interesting game. So keep your eye on that. It'll be interesting how those two teams match up at all. Next up, we got the Washington Commanders. They're all over the place. One week they put Philly to overtime. The next week they lose to the Chicago Bears. They lose to the Giants. They win other games that like against Atlanta. They're just one very inconsistent team. And with Sam Howell leading the league and getting sacked, it's not a good recipe for a young quarterback like that. The last time we had a quarterback like him, it was David Carr for the Houston Texans in his rookie year, and we all know how his career turned out. It did not turn out very long term. So they got to find a way to protect this young quarterback, or his career is going to be in danger getting sacked this much. Washington, they have to figure it out. I don't like what they're doing right now. I got them number 22. 21, Minnesota. Just a massive win over the San Francisco 49ers. And I said it, but this was before Jefferson went down. I thought Minnesota actually had an opportunity to win this division when they started 0-3. But here we are. They picked up a massive win. And realistically, I still think they do have a shot. They just got to win games against their division. And that's what they're going to do this week coming up, playing against Green Bay. They got to take advantage of that. And sure, maybe 9-8 might be good enough to win this division. Lions, of course, look to be doing better than that, but we'll talk about them in a little minute. But it's their first time really having a winning team together here. So it does take a few steps sometimes to get everything going. Number 20, we got New Orleans. They lost to the Jaguars on Thursday night. They've had an extra long break now, and they're going to be playing Indy. I really expect this defense to step up this week coming up against Indy. Gardner Minshew, of course, being crazy with turnovers as of late, but it's going to be one of those matchups I talked about at the beginning. It's going to be vital for the power rankings as a whole to really decide which teams are serious contenders and which are not. New Orleans tends to keep games relatively close, especially with their defense keeping them in games, but we got to see, can their offense get things going? Alvin Kamara being back, he's been one of the most sought-after targets for Derek Carr there, but they got to put it all together, and this is going to be a real test for them coming up. Number 19, their division rivals, Tampa Bay, they lost to Atlanta 16-13, and that was for the division lead at the time. And right now, Baker Mayfield, after a first couple of weeks of looking really good offensively, he's sputtered out, and we saw him have some key turnovers in this game. They did take a tie down, and then we saw Atlanta do a kick right at the end to win the game. And whenever you give Atlanta the ball with a chance to kick to win, they're going to kick it through more times than not with that kicker back there. So number 19, Tampa Bay, I do think they're a little bit trending down. This is probably where they're going to sit, and they do have a big week coming up. They're playing Buffalo. It's a Thursday nighter. All the eyes are going to be on them. These are two teams that are really in desperate win situations, so it's going to be important what goes on there. Houston, team coming out of the bye. They've looked good all season long so far. Pretty consistent. They started 0-2. They picked up some wins against some tougher teams. They've at least been super competitive, and CJ Stroud so far looks to be the rookie quarterback that has made the biggest impact. Of course, he has the offensive line that's been helping him out, and he's coming out of this bye week playing a Carolina team that's 0-6. So we do expect him to try to take a big win here. It's going to tell a lot about what this Houston's team trajectory is going to be the rest of the season this following week. Teams that are 0-6 coming out of a bye usually play big. But so this game is going to be super exciting. It's going to mean a lot of what Houston's trajectory is going to be going forward. Number 17, we've got the LA Rams just falling down the rankings slowly but surely. They just can't seem to keep up with certain teams. Pittsburgh, the defense really shut them down. They took the game by the horns, pun intended. But Rams lose to Pittsburgh Steelers, and then they have Dallas this upcoming week. I think they're kind of a middling team. At first, I thought they might have a shot at the playoffs, but this division with the 49ers and the Seahawks ahead of them, they're really going to have to scrape and fight and win all these important games. A game like Dallas, that's one you got to find a way to win if you're going to be in this playoff discussion. Got to beat playoff teams. So we'll see how the Rams compete against a team like Dallas this week. 16, we got the Indianapolis Colts. They had a crazy game against the Browns. I think they should have won. I think the refs bailed out Cleveland in this game. Gardner Minshew, of course, didn't play amazing, but they put up so many points. Both teams put up lots of points. The defense on Colts side wasn't what you would expect, but you got to be excited how they're going to match up this week going up against New Orleans. They're not going to be in that same, it's not going to be the same kind of game that we just saw against Cleveland, although you did think Cleveland, that the defense there was going to keep them down. Myles Garrett, he crushed Indy this whole game, and I don't think the Saints have that kind of impact player on the defensive line. However, they have it all over. They have a solid defense, so it's going to be interesting. These teams fighting to be in the playoff conversation in this middling row. It's going to be impactful. Number 15, moving up a few spots. They had a massive division win, and now I think that puts them as the favorite to win the NFC South, the Atlanta Falcons. Next up, they have Tennessee coming out of the bye, so that's going to be big. If they can pull a win off here and stream together a few big wins here, it's going to put them in a very good situation because you have two of these guys playing both tough opponents this week, and those are really the two teams that have any shot of competing for the division. Obviously, Carolina, no shot, but Atlanta, they can really start to build a gap if they keep a little bit of winning, and they got to beat the teams below them, and they'll win this division, and that's going to be the test this week against a rookie quarterback. You would suspect they get it done. 14, Seahawks. Massive win for the Seahawks. Just a win that you have to pick up against a division rival, the Cardinals. A division rival is down and out on the season. Their season's pretty much behind them at this point, and you got to take the win. Wasn't super impressive. They won 20-10, but they got it done, and now they're going to play a team that got off an ugly win themselves in the Cleveland Browns. Two teams that are going to match up very well in terms of power rankings wise, and I think on paper these teams match up pretty well. So it's going to be interesting how these two teams play. I think the Seahawks are surprising a lot of people, myself included. I do not expect them to keep this consistent, but their defensive line has been strong, and I suspect they're going to give PJ Walker a run for his money. 13, Bengals coming off a bye. They're going to have a big game this week. They're playing San Francisco, a team that has now lost a couple games in a row. And Bengals have been that team that's been fighting for every win as of late. They started really slow. They picked up some wins before the bye, and now they're coming out of a bye against a team that's struggling, and they probably want to strike while they smell blood against this team. Bengals need to make a move because the Ravens are starting to run away with this division. Right now, they're the lowest ranked in the AFC North. The AFC North is one of the strongest I have on this board because the Browns are in there. As much as I feel weird having them high without the quarterback situation, seems a little whack. Watson, of course, dealing with that shoulder injury. We have Chubb, who's out for the season, and now it's just a defensive. It's supposed to be a defensive team against Indy. It didn't get done that way, so trying to sort out what the Browns are about. But right now, when I see the Browns against these rest of these teams, they still seem to compete well enough to be number 12, at least with the records and everything going on. Number 11, we have the Chargers. Not a great week for the Chargers. They lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. Big game for them. Of course, they wanted to try to keep pace in that division. At this point, it seems like the Chiefs are pretty much destined to win this division again. Chargers, for the most part, have always played the Chiefs very well, but this week it just got away from them. They just couldn't compete. Coming into this week, they're going to be playing Chicago. That's a game that they're going to have to win. If they want to consider themselves a playoff team going forward, they got to win games against teams in the bottom row, 100%. So Chargers are the play. Number 10, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just a big win. The Steelers team surprises me. It's never about their offense. It's always about their defense. But then the offense, they make big plays when it matters. Pickens, Johnson, they do pull in big balls when it matters. And Pickett's managing to get it done, while the defense, TJ Watt's definitely one of the most impactful players on the field. The Steelers are winning the games. It seems like they're on pace for a 10-win season, which would put them in a playoff hunt. These two teams are tight. Like, we're starting to look here. All these AFC teams, there's only so many spots. We can't have them all, so we're going to have one of these teams probably looking out at that when all is said and done, right? But Steelers have looked good so far, and they're winning the games they want to. They do have a important week. They're playing someone ahead of them in the standings. Technically, it could be a team that they're competing for a playoff spot. They might see them in the first round. I'm sure they both make the playoffs, and that is Jacksonville. Number 9, we have the Detroit Lions. Not going to punish them too much, but they did get absolutely blown out by the Baltimore Ravens. I don't really fault them. The Ravens' offense was on fire. That first half, I think, they put up 35, it felt like. But the Lions just didn't have an answer for them, and that's okay. They don't see the Ravens too often. Maybe once every few years, Lamar Jackson does have a shot there, so I don't hold that too much against them. But at the same time, with Minnesota winning that big game against San Francisco, I do think the gap between those two teams is closing slightly. Still massive gap, though, right? Number 8, we have the Dolphins. I do feel like they may be a little high, of course. They lost to the Eagles on Sunday night. If we really look deep at the Dolphins, they're 5-2, but their losses are to the Bills, to the Eagles, and all their wins are against teams that are basically in the bottom 2 rows completely. So they're playing again the Pats this week, so you would expect them to win. But I really want to see what this Dolphins team does when they start playing these middling teams, these teams right in the middle, because those are who they're going to be competing for the playoffs. Sure, they look great. Sure, their offense looks great so far, but they need to start playing good football against playoff teams if they're going to go anywhere this season. Number 7, feels a little guilty leaving them this high. They haven't had the greatest of times right now, but that was an ugly loss. They've had some weird losses this season, to the Jets, now to the Patriots, and then in London. I still put them ahead of the Dolphins. They managed to beat the Dolphins when they met. Maybe both these two teams could even drop down here. It's pretty interchangeable maybe, but I still think these are the top teams. So I am going to keep them there, at least for now. The Bills playing Thursday. If they don't win that game, they're going to be the biggest drop going into next week. I can just see it now. Number 6, Jacksonville Jaguars. A team that had a massive Thursday night win. Now they had a big break, and they're going to be playing Pittsburgh. I expect to see a great showing here. This Jags team has been probably the best record in the NFL. If we date back to halfway through last season, I think they won like 6 in a row down the stretch, right? Something like that. Jaguars have an offensive weapons everywhere. Their defense has been draft picks galore, and they've been competing well. So Jaguars, number 6, I think makes a lot of sense. Number 5, they got a bye week, and now they play the Rams. The Cowboys, they do move up a couple of spots, mainly because the rest of the teams got a little concerned about these 3. So I moved them up a couple of spots, and I think they have something to play for, and I expect them to give the Rams a run for the money. Number 4, after losing two games in a row, I'm not going to punish it too much. We started to see them come around a little bit at the end of that Minnesota game. Not quite getting there, but San Francisco still clearly the favorite in the NFC West. And I do think they are the strongest team other than the Eagles in the NFC. Number 3, one of the best risers of the week, we have the Baltimore Ravens. Great week for them. They absolutely showed that they mean business this season. Now 5-2. Trying to build a gap. They've on their division. They have Arizona this week, so that should help. While the other teams in their division do play tough games, so they're going to at least build a gap on a few of these teams. But Baltimore, we're going to have to see what they do. They've played a few of their division games already. They've gone pretty well, except the blown game against Steelers. But if they keep this up, should go well for them. Number 2, we got the Eagles. Eagles put on the clinic against the Dolphins, showed what an ex-Super Bowl team is capable of. The tush push, very controversial play right now, but it's working and it's helping them win these games. They play Washington this week, and it's pretty much going to be their opportunity to put this division at bay. We're going to have to see what happens when these two teams start meeting, because they still have to get through Dallas in this division, but overall, they're flying high. These Eagles got to be excited. Number 1, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, and I don't think there's any controversy at this point. The Chiefs, ever since opening night, have just been undefeated. Their defense might be the best defense we've seen this Chiefs team have in many years. It's always been a concern when you would watch the Chiefs that their defense would not be able to get it done. But it's been getting it done, and now with that being sorted, they brought Hardman back in for a weapon from Mahomes. Got to have a lot of concern. This Chiefs team could really run the table. It'd be pretty crazy. But the Chiefs are number 1 on the board. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys agree with most of these rankings? Which ones are I completely out to lunch on? Which games are you most excited to see this weekend? Otherwise, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you for that next video. Peace out.